we see a lot of underperforming young men, a lot of men hanging out what I call the nurseries. They've just kind of quit trying. Whether they're MGTOWs, men going their own way, incels, involuntary celibate, going red pill, or just, spending all their time on the internet. They're just living in this world where nothing's really required of them because their paradigm of trying to get their needs met and get people to like them doesn't work. And nobody's ever giving them any other way to go about getting their needs met and connecting people in authentic, real, and integrated ways. And that's what I try to do in No More Mr. Nice Guy. I say in No More Mr. Nice Guy, nice guys are afraid of two kinds of feelings, their own and everybody else's. Our opinions, our wants, and our sexuality. I can say culturally, but this is pretty much worldwide. Worldwide, culturally, says sex is bad. I grew up fundamental Christian. You mentioned you're involved in your church. I grew up with a message that says sex is dirty, evil, and sinful. So save it for the one you love. Which, huh? And I really grew up believing that if I saw a young woman's breasts and had attraction or lust for them, I was going to burn in hell for all eternity. So most nice guys, and so whether you grow up religious or not, we still live in culture that says sex is bad, and at the same time bombards us with sexual stimuli. Movies, TV, music, internet, social media. We're bombarded with sexual stimuli. So nice guys are often hiding their sexuality, along again like their thoughts or feelings. So nice guys are walking through the world, trying to be liked, trying to get their needs met, trying to avoid abandonment, trying to avoid pain, all the while being, really, for lack of a better term, as inauthentic as you could be, being total chameleons. And it tends to us not being liked and loved in the ways we'd want, and it tends to us struggling to get our needs met, which leads to a lot of not nice things that we see in nice guys. Carl Jung made a statement, until we make the unconscious conscious, we will call it fate, and it will rule our life. So most of what we do is unconscious, and we just assume that this is. So when I'm doing my nice guy stuff, like trying to become what I think people want me to be, trying to make a good impression. I'll give an example, using something I call nice guy seduction. When I wanted a girl to like me, what typically I would do is I would try to do all the things that I thought would make me likable to her. If it was I was in school, like high school or college, I'd know all the answers to the teacher's questions because if I'm smart, that will be impressive. I'll do nice things for her. I'll offer to do something. I'll carry her books. I'll offer to do something. I'll listen to her a lot. I'll ask her questions. I'll listen to her talk about her problems. I'll try to fix things, try to help her. All the while hiding my sexual agenda, my sexual interest, any flaws, anything that might get a negative reaction. And I think that's going to make her like me. But as most of the young men listening to this know, all that really does is put you in what's called the friend zone. That term didn't exist back when I was in the friend zone all those years as a younger man, because that kind of nice seeking of approval actually is kind of boring to most people. They may take advantage of it, but they're not really attracted to it or turned on by it. And so what happens for nice guys, and this is true for probably many people that are unconscious of their roadmap, their world paradigm that they're following, trying to get their needs met, is that when it doesn't work, all nice guys know how to do is double down and try harder. Oh, I'll try harder to get people like me. I'll work even better to make a good impression. I'll work even harder to hide anything that might cause negative reactions. And then often what we see nowadays, because we can kind of track these things, is we see a lot of underperforming young men, a lot of men hanging out what I call the nurseries. They've just kind of quit trying. Whether they're MGTOWs, men going their own way, incels, involuntary celibate, going red pill, or just, spending all their time on the internet, binging on Netflix, smoking dope, masturbating to porn. They're just living in this world where nothing's really required of them because their paradigm of trying to get their needs met and get people to like them doesn't work. And nobody's ever giving them any other way to go about getting their needs met and connecting people in authentic, real, and integrated ways. And that's what I try to do in No More Mr. Nice Guy.
That's a little bit what the whole idea and concept of authenticity gives you. If you're authentic in your business, you're going to begin to accrue a little attention from the market. Markets pay attention to you. Only businesses that have attention are able to survive. Likewise, sort of in the investment space, the contrarian investor is the one in the end that ends up coming out ahead of everyone else. But yet, I think in our personal lives, from what you're telling me and what I'm reading here, is we think we've got to do sort of the obvious thing. I've got to be likable, and I've got to conform myself to what I really want and hide behind those things. And then whenever I realize that doesn't work, and I don't think that doesn't work, I will often play the victim card. That life's not fair. The woman didn't see me first. She realized she's an idiot, or you can't see how smart I am. And my favorite Dr. Glover is the really, really book smart guy who's not wise. He assumes that he's going to get the wealth. He assumes he's going to get the beautiful woman, and he waits, but he never takes any risks. And the man that never takes any risk eventually just dies. And then he's selfish, and he's envious of everyone else. And he hates everyone else that actually took the risks. And so they assume that because they're book smart, they should have all this other stuff, but they never take the risk because they self-sabotage the whole time around safety.
Yeah, and I think we could maybe add even one more category to this around young men is the highly intelligent, fairly socially inept young man that's going to go out and punish the world. He becomes the hacker. He becomes the person that just because he can, he finds a way to, get even with the world and gets pride out of that. And, there's whole clans out there of these guys that, they're competing with each other. Let's see who can basically fuck people over the most because, they deserve it because, again, they're resentful and they never had a paradigm or the social skills to go out and get what they want. So they blame everybody else for it.
Would you put the gentleman, I'm not even mention his shitty name here, but the gentleman in Butler, Pennsylvania, the 20-year-old, would you put him in that sort of class?
I haven't studied this, but, just from a casual glance, it does seem that a lot of people that go on shooting rampages are these isolated young males, often white, not always, that maybe are fairly smart, but think because of that they're entitled, and then because they don't get what they want, and often is I don't know if this sounds crazy, but it may seem crazy on the surface, but I think often it's probably a sense of either a repeated rejection from women or having actually no clue of how to even interact with a woman. And here are these guys that, we're wired, that during our adolescent and early adult years, we're wired to be highly sexual, men and women both. But men, that's our peak. Women tend to hit their peak like in their mid 30s and in their 40s sexually. Men hit their peak, starting about 16 through, their mid 20s. And if during that peak, and that's where a guy is both wired by nature, if you believe God made us that way, however you want to look at it, it exists, it's real. And if that cannot get expressed, if there is not a viable pathway for expressing that sexual drive, that sexual desire, and with how our society attributes value to males, if you have a girlfriend, if you have an attractive girlfriend, if you have multiple girlfriends, if you have a wife, that gives you value in our culture. And not having a girlfriend, never having had sex, or women seeming to not care for you or be drawn to you, that tends to get internalized, and more shame gets added to it. But often there is that sense of isolation and inability to connect with the opposite sex sexually. Again, I'm not an expert on it, but from a casual glance, that seems to be pretty predominant.
And so since there's no women watch, I'm going to ask you I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit of a guy trade secret. Everyone knows that there's a scale that exists. It goes from 1 to 10, and we rate women on this scale. Like I think probably all of us do.
Women rank themselves that way too.
Yeah. And so when I look and I see a woman that's a 9, and she's on the arm of a guy that looks like he's about a 3 or 4, I'm looking at that delta between 9 and a 3, and I see 6, and I'm inferring competency and probably some wealth and probably a little bit of authenticity and probably a little bit of risk taking, all kind of bundled in there. But I think competency seems to be sort of the primary thing that you can maybe trade up the scale. You can trade up the ladder. And I think a lot of that has to do with confidence. But I mean, what are some of the things that guys can do when if they've got big grand dreams, but they look like a 3?
Here's the thing, and mainly because I work with men. Here's the paradox. If we go out chasing women, trying to figure out what do I have to do to get a woman? And again, there's plenty on the internet to support that, and plenty of people that'll sell you whatever it takes to get a woman. I think we put ourselves in a paradoxical state that actually works against us. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I think it's normal and natural for a boy, a young man, an adult, to desire the approval of a woman. If you think about it, we're all born to a woman. So here we are in that needy, helpless, dependent phase. And our first caregivers were probably women. And probably that continued into elementary school where our teachers were women. And so as a second grader, I not only had to learn my writing, reading, and arithmetic, but how to please a woman. And then I got to be adolescent. And here's, the girls start getting some curves and I start noticing them like every other boy. And how do I get the approval of these women now, right? And what if nobody's ever taught me? And what if nobody's ever even said, actually, you can't? It's like trying to get the approval of the weather. Trying to get female, feminine approval is a moving target. And any guy listening to this is nodding his head going, yeah, tell us something we don't know. So trying to get female approval is always a moving target. Trying to get our mother's approval, trying to get a female teacher's approval, trying to get, think about, would you really want to chase the approval of an adolescent girl? I mean, they're nuts, but as adolescent boys, we thought we had to figure them out. They're not able to be figured out. And then we come into adulthood still doing the same thing. Now, it makes sense that we would want the approval of women, sexual and otherwise. The world of the masculine, in terms of finding approval, is actually a steady target. We know what's expected of us in the masculine world. You know when you've scored a touchdown. You know when you've gotten a hit in baseball or hit a home run. You know when you've scored a basket. You know when you've gotten the promotion. You know when you made the $1 million. You know when you got the promotion in the military, and it's all, you know how to do it. And with men, they teach you how to do it. Men want men to succeed. And so what's happened is the majority of men, culture nowadays, I mean, I'm 68, so this even includes me, so it's been a while, that we did not have masculine initiation. We did not have men taking us away from mommy, taking us away from the need for female approval, and taught how to succeed in the masculine world. Now, here's the paradox. Once we find how to succeed in the masculine world, all of a sudden, that makes us highly attractive to the feminine. The feminine's over there looking at that guy. Oh, he's masterful. He's competent. It shows in this way. It shows in this way. It shows in that way. And the feminine finds that attractive. And the feminine is going to start sending signals that says, notice me, pay attention to me. I want to be part of your team. I want to hang out with you. Rather than the men now who are all being taught, you have to go chase them. They have what you want. Go chase them. Go figure out how to get their approval. Go figure out how to get them to like you. Go figure out how to spend enough money on them, or how to all. And so we've got it backwards. Whenever we men go seeking the approval of women, we've made them, in the sense, the alpha. They're the decider. They're the decision maker. And when the man knows, I don't need that. I got my success over here in the masculine world. He now is the decider, and he has something the feminine wants. They will come to him. They will send the signals of interest. So where I think we have this big gap is these young men who've often grown up without fathers, raised by single moms, raised in a school system and social media that preaches toxic masculinity. Boys are bad. If men want sex, they're bad, they're evil, whatever all that is. And now a lot of young men I talk to tell me that their fathers were nice guys. The millennials and Generation Z. And it makes sense. My son just turned 39 this month. And so he's millennial. And I was a nice guy father. I was doing my nice guy recovery work, writing No More Mr. Nice Guy when he was an adolescent. So now a lot of young men are brought up with a nice guy father, and all their dads taught them is don't piss off your mother, because that's what they were trying really hard not to do as well. So when men don't have masculine initiation and learn how to be masterful in the masculine world, we're just hanging out in the nursery, wanting everything pushed to us, fed to us, hoping we can learn some magic tricks to get the women to like us and want to take their clothes off with us. And those magic tricks don't work, even though they are sold a lot on the internet. If they worked, we'd all use them and they'd all work, but they don't.
You did something masterful. I was reading your book and I was trying to figure out, how is he going to convince the incels to get out of the basement? How is he going to convince these young guys that are just frustrated to maybe look up and begin thinking it's possible? And this is what you wrote. And I think this was incredibly striking. This was the pivot of the book for me, the idea that I could look up. You said, remember, what one man can do, another man can do. If one man can make $1 million, why can't you? If one man can start the business of his dreams, why can't you? If one man can drive a Mercedes, why can't you? If one man can be a snowboarding instructor, why can't you? And that was the big pivot to me. Like, why not? Why the hell not? If you can do it, I can do it.
I don't think the word incels or even MGTOW existed at the time I wrote that, because I probably wrote that 25 plus years ago. And maybe those terms were around at that time. I just didn't know it yet. But what was funny about that term, what one man can do, another man can do, that's been a driving mantra in my life for quite some time. And the backstory of that, I stole that from a movie called The Edge, where Alec Baldwin and the actor that played Hannibal Lecter, they're out in the woods in Alaska, and a bear's chasing them, right? And anyway, without going deep into the story, the Hannibal Lecter actor character, I can't think of his name, was telling the Alec Baldwin character what one man can do, another man can do, and they came up with this plan to try to kill this bear that's stalking them and trying to kill them. And there's Google it, go on YouTube and look for The Edge, what one man can do, another man can do, or I'm going to fucking kill the bear. And it's a pretty good scene. And that's been my mantra, because even trying to get my book published, it took me 6 to 7 years to write it, about 3 years to find a publisher. And a lot of publishers said, Robert, it's a good book, but our marketing department says men won't buy a self-help book. And, this is nothing towards John Gray. He and I have never talked about this, but I thought, if John Gray can get Venus and Mars published, I can get my book. What one man can do, I can get this done. And I just stuck with it. I just stuck with it and stuck with it and stuck with it and stuck with it. And then me hustling led to some fortuitous events. It's kind of like they say, funny how the harder I work, the luckier I get. I got lucky because I was working my ass off trying to, draw attention to the book. And finally, a perfect storm came along. I got some national media attention, and a national publisher said, we want to publish your book. But it took several years and a lot of hustle and a lot of work, and even overcoming that, is anybody even going to read this? Is anybody going to want, I thought, well, we're not going to find out if I don't get it published. So I'm a big believer. I like the hustle. I'm a big believer in the hustle, in intelligent hustle. Just working harder doesn't necessarily take you where you want to go. Some of the hardest working people on the planet are the poorest people on the planet. You got to be willing to work hard, but work smart. And again, it helps if someone teaches us how to do that. It's good if we have a mentor, a coach. I'm a big believer in getting the right help. Right now, for example, I am the leanest I've been in 25 years. I'm down 81 kilos, is about 179 pounds. I haven't been this lean in 25 years. And what's the difference? I hired a nutrition coach about 4 months ago, started counting macros, started communicating, started getting on a good diet, watching what I eat. but I got help doing it. I got a coach. I have a nutrition coach I check in with a few times a week, and we talk once a week. And they've changed the way I do a lot of things. They've even started changing how I work out, and it pays off. Now, I've tried to do this alone most of my life, but I've had coaches and trainers before, and I've always had the most success. In fact, there's even a correlation here. Not only have I looked the best, I performed the best in life and gotten laid the most when I had a personal trainer. There's something about that.
Not by the personal trainer. Not by the parent.
No,
yeah, that doesn't count.
Not by the personal trainer. Not only the results that you have someone showing you the healthiest way to do something, but I think there's a certain humility that says, I need a coach. I'm smart, I'm capable, but I need a coach. And it seems like the more coaches I have in my life, the more effective I perform at every level. Now, of course, that requires a good coach that connects well with you and gives you good guidance. But, so many men, this always included me, think, I'll do it alone. I can do it myself, because we're afraid of being seen. We're afraid of failure. We're afraid of looking foolish. We're cheap. We don't want to invest in ourselves, whatever the reasons are. But all of that works against us. And kind of bringing it back to where we started. If you want to get masterful in this world and have the things you want, get an idea of what that looks like. You want to get in better shape. Do you want to make more money? Do you want to build a click funnel that works? Get a coach. Get someone who knows what they're doing. That's not out there just trying to, make a shitload of money because they can take advantage of people. But a coach that will really, work with you personally, whether it's get you in good shape, help you with your finances, help you build your click funnel, and then work your ass off. And all of a sudden you'll notice things are coming your way. Opportunities, open doors, the smiles of a woman, all of a sudden they're coming your way without you, sitting around going, how come a woman never smiles at me? Well, women tend to smile at people that show confidence and success and mastery. I have a quote, and you mentioned Chris Williamson. He's quoted this several other times since he and I talked, that the feminine is highly attracted to a man who's comfortable in his own skin. That means, hey, like your body, like who you are, who knows where he's going and looks like he's having a good time getting there. And I tell you what, when I live my life like that, comfortable in my own skin, know where I'm going, and I look like I'm having a good time getting there, all kinds of doors open up all around me. And all I have to do is say yes, walk through the open doors. It seems overly simplistic, but it's that paradox that chasing the wrong things, for example, chasing the approval of a woman, good luck. That's going to keep you chasing your tail the rest of your life, because you'll never catch it. You'll never catch it.
Where do you how do you see risk? Do you ever recommend clients take more risk in their like not in their sexual lives, but maybe so, but also sort of their professional lives and their business lives?
I tell people, No More Mr. Nice Guy is not a chronicle of my successes. It's a collection of my fuck ups. It's the things that didn't work. It's the things that I didn't get right. I believe in risk. Now, I don't. We live in a world of hyperbole. Where go take the biggest risk. Go 10x and 100x your income. I'm really okay with subtle risks. That's okay. Get out of my comfort zone. Anything that gets me out of my comfort zone gets me used to being out of my comfort zone. And once you're out of your comfort zone, it doesn't matter if you're shooting for, a million or 10 million. It really doesn't matter. Just, and I think even again, in this hyperbole world of the internet, 10x it, 100x it, get up at 4:30 and take a picture of your watch and post it on social media. No, you don't really have to do that. I think if you just consistently get out of your comfort zone, consistently surround yourself with people who can help you move forward, whether that's friends, whether it's colleagues, whether it's coaches, whether it's mentors, whether it's a therapist, the doors are going to open that you could not have predicted. I've found that, because a lot of people say, well, Robert, you're so lucky. You live in Mexico, you get to, you love the work you do. You have a beautiful younger wife. You've got this, you've got that. You're changing the world. And I go, I'm going to say, no luck involved. It was a lot of fucking hard work to get a PhD at 29, to write a book, to hustle it for the last 20 years and for the royalty checks to keep going up. The stuff in my life didn't come from luck. It came from focusing on things that were important to me or that I found interesting, that I found challenging, and walking through open doors, saying yes to open doors. The problem is if we get into say, well, I want this to happen, and I want this to happen, and I want that to happen, we don't see the open doors all around us. And I'll bring it back to, your analogy of the 3. A lot of guys will tell me, well, if I can't date a 10, I'm not going to date at all. And I go, that's like saying if I can't drive a Bentley, I'm not going to drive at all. I said, start with a Honda Civic. It's okay. Work up to an Accord. Go have some experiences and get masterful. Get your reps. That's the best way to put it. Get your reps in, but you don't have to get your reps in playing against the NFL or the NBA. Get your reps in and keep upping your competition that you play with as you get better, right? Because if you go against the NFL or the NBA when you're not experienced, you'll get your ass kicked and you'll quit, right? So get your reps in. But if you're a 3, start with some 3s. And once you get a little confidence, a little mastery, all of a sudden you'll notice there's some 4s and 5s looking your way and smiling. Say yes to that. And then when you get confident with that, well, look, a 6 just, jutted her butt as she walked by, But we live in this world of instant gratification, and we believe it's true because we saw it on the internet. I can pay money, and some guy's going to teach me how to make every 10 want to take their clothes off instantly. That doesn't happen. It doesn't. Well, yeah, it does, but it's going to cost you a little bit. That's a whole nother discussion. So get your reps in. I like that. It's just a beautiful way to put it. Whether we're talking about how you learn to interact with women, how you build your business, how you get in shape, get your reps in. And do it consistently. And just like, kind of like when you go to the gym, I'll go back to having a coach or a mentor. I could get a workout routine off the internet and go do a bunch of bench presses and do a bunch of this. And guess what's going to probably happen? I'm going to hurt my shoulder again, which I've done 2 or 3 times in my lifetime and had, an impinged shoulder for 3 to 4 years and it hurt like hell. Finally, the only thing will help you get a cortisol shot and then try to finally, you get over it sooner or later. So bad practice doesn't make better. So if you're going to go to the gym and get your reps in, don't go and start throwing around a bunch of iron and hurt yourself or, develop bad habits. Get a coach to watch over you and say, no, all right, move your back like this or get your elbows in like this or move your hands like that. All right, move it slowly down. And then, whatever they're going to teach you. But that means we got to be vulnerable. And we got to ask someone to help us, and we got to follow their instructions, and we got to get, the muscle memory of doing it correctly over and over and over again. That's what getting our reps in does. And then we start noticing mastery. And I'm also a big believer. You get masterful in one level, that does tend to generalize to other areas of life. Like if somebody comes in and says, Robert, I'm a real nice guy in my relationships with nice guy, and I become the total simp with women. But at work, I'm actually pretty good. And I'll go, good. We've already got that baseline. We can take that baseline and work on your skills you already have and apply them over here. So I think if you get good with money, you're going to get good in other places. You get good in the gym, you're going to get good at other places. You get good playing an instrument, you're going to get good at other places. So get good at something. And then generalize the skill sets and the mindset that got you there to other areas of life you want to get masterful at.
Yeah. And this idea that mastery requires a quality master, right? That's the only place where mastery can come from is from a master. If you're going to have a master, you got to be able to be willing to be a student, to be humble, like you talked about. And I think that the idea that the quality of your master will make the quality of your life, that really rings true. We aim too low, and that's you talked about the idea about the saying no when you should have said yes is a mortal sin, which I love. So let's say that a man is watching this right now, and he's that man who just assumed because he was smart, assumed because he was a nice guy, everything would be clicking right now. He's frustrated. He's mad at the world. but he would never say that.
No, he does. He goes online and says it a lot anonymously, using a handle, a pseudonym. He doesn't really say, here's my name, where I live, and here's my social security number. I'm going to flame you now. No, they don't.
So give that man maybe 2 or 3 things, like hard, concrete things that he should do in the next 24 hours that would at least help tilt the direction of that colossal failure of a life that he's got right now.
Get off your screens, out in public, interacting, work at, and that's what I did when I got divorced in my late 40s. My first 2 wives were my first 2 sex partners. And so I was out there in a whole new world. I hadn't dated since college. I sucked at it then. I used nice guy seduction. And I married 2 women who I shouldn't have dated more than 3 dates. And I stayed with them 25 years because I had no dating skills. I had no ability or confidence to know I could go out there and get what I wanted, what served me better. So, when I became single in my late 40s, I just decided I'm going to learn how to do this. And I'm going to start with being a social animal. And I just got out of my house every chance I got. Took my laptop, took my newspaper, took the work I was working on. I'd go eat, at happy hour in restaurants, talk to the bartender, talk to the people around me. I learned people's names. I just got good at it. And it's a skill you can develop. If I could develop it, I know it can be developed because I was not particularly socially adept. Neither of my parents modeled or taught me good social skills. I had to learn them by modeling other people who are good at it, and then just trial and error, getting out of my comfort zone and taking risks.